Alright, hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. Now today I'm doing a showcase and a build guide for my personal favorite 4-star in the entire game, Beidou. Now my Beidou I have put a lot of investment into. She has relentlessly been my favorite 4-star just for the way he had to play her playstyle. Her counter is my favorite ability in the entire game. Still, to this day, the counter is my favorite thing to do in the entire game. So here's my Beidou. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so here are my Beidou stats on the right side, so feel free to screenshot it if you want to. The stats are pretty well spread. I mean, 1600 attack is a little bit low, but you'll see why with the weapon that we are currently running. 724 defense is fine. 63 elemental mastery is fine. The HP is at a nice 18,600, which I kind of like because it gives her a nice little beefier shield. In case Zhongli's shield runs out, if you ever run her with a Zhongli, then she'll be able to shield herself for a little bit. So there we go. Let's go ahead and take a look at her details. Alright, so as you can see, I currently have 911 extra attack added onto the 735. Now, I honestly think this is really good because usually what I do to find a good balance of attack is you want to take this number, the white number, and then you want to times that by 1.2, and then you can try to get the number that you want to aim for the green number, because you always want your green number to be a little bit higher than your white number. And if I times 735 times 1.2, that will be 882. So I actually have a little bit more than what I personally require to call it a very good balance for attack, because you always want to have a little bit more attack than the white number that you currently have. So there we go. That is the stats, the attack, defense, and HP. So here is my critical rate and critical damage with 71.1% critical rate and 157.3 critical damage. Energy recharge. For energy recharge, I like to say for Beidou, you want to aim somewhere around 125 plus. I have my Beidou at 140.2% energy. I feel like this is a very good balance, especially for a main DPS Beidou. Especially if you don't run her with Raid and Shogun, then you will have maybe some energy problems here and there. But since I run her with nice, good amount of energy recharge, 140%, I found to work very nice on her. Of course, I have 85% electro damage bonus because you want to running her with electro damage bonus. And there we go. So that pretty much covers for the stats and the details. Let's move on to weapons. Now for weapons for Beidou, I currently have an R5 Serpent Spine equipped onto her. Now this is obviously not a very free-to-play friendly weapon. This is a R5 Battle Pass weapon, which bare minimum I think would take you about 4 to 5 months of doing the battle pass to getting to level 30, and you have to purchase it on top of that in order for you to actually get an R5 Serpent Spine. But I decided to go for this weapon as my first ever R5 because I found it to be really good on Beidou, and considering this is also one of the only critical rate claymores in the entire game, unfortunately there is no 5-star claymore that actually gives you a lot of critical rate yet to be available. Of course, I do have a Wolf's Gravestone that I could slap onto my Beidou. Honestly, if I did put this on her, she would be hitting higher numbers, but I feel like having the higher critical rate as along with the damage would be much better on my Beidou, and I found this actually to be a much better build. Plus, the weapon looks really nice on her. I feel like this Serpent Spine is probably one of the best looking weapons in the entire game, especially equipped on Beidou. This weapon looks like it's made for her. For other weapons, you do have the brand new Akuo Maru, which just came out with the brand new weapon banner on the Polar Star banner. I did get this weapon up to R4, and I did want to test it out on her for her ult damage, but unfortunately, I'm very low on enhancement ores at the current moment because I had to level up 2 5-star weapons, so I actually have not been able to get the Akuo Maru up to 90, but when I do, I probably will put this onto my Eula and take the Wolf's Gravestone off of her, because I found the Akuo Maru to actually do way more damage than the Wolf's Gravestone, especially at an R5 level for ult damage. For other free-to-play weapons, you're going to have the Black Cliff Slasher. Now, I wouldn't say this is a free-to-play weapon, but anyone basically can get this for free. All you have to do is really save up your currency that you get from the shop. Black Cliff Slasher is the weapon that she holds in her Gacha Splash art. So this weapon actually does work very well on her, especially if you can get multiple kills with it. It can do a very good amount of damage, as well as give you a nice little attack percent boost. Usually at R1, this will stack up to 3 times, which will give you a very nice 36% attack, as well with a very high critical damage multiplier at level 80, looking at 50%. The base attack is, of course, pretty low, but it's honestly the same base attack as Serpent Spine, which is fine. You also have the Golden Prototype Archaic. This is basically as free-to-play as you can get in terms of being a craftable weapon. This weapon is very good on Beidou for a main DPS carry. You also have the Luxurious Sea Lord, which is the free-to-play weapon from the first anniversary event. The Luxurious Sea Lord I have found to work very well on Beidou because she wants to be doing a lot of damage on her Elemental Burst, and this really does help her Elemental Burst damage out a lot. So if you do have this weapon at R5 and you don't have any other good weapon like Serpent Spine, Blackcliff, or Wolf's Gravestone, you can go ahead and throw this on her and it'll work perfectly fine. Now you also have this Nagamasa weapon here, which is going to be the craftable Inazuma weapon. Now this weapon will be giving you a lot of energy recharge. Unfortunately, the base attack is not too good. Compared to a sacrificial greatsword, it actually has a lower base attack. It's going to increase your elemental skill damage, which will increase your E damage. But the only downside is that whenever you do this, you will lose energy with your Beidou. I found this weapon to be decent, but this is like a bare minimum 4-star weapon if you literally have nothing else. Brain Slasher can also be a decent option. That is, of course, if you're going to be running a full Electro team, like if you're running Raiden Shogun, Sara, and Kaching, this weapon can be pretty good on a full Electro squad. Other than that, this weapon I have not found to be very viable at all, and I actually started straying away from this weapon. So that pretty much does it for weapons. Now, obviously, for me, in my opinion, I think Serpent Spine is probably one of her best 4-stars, if not the best 4-star next to Akua Maru in terms of overall damage. And the reason why I'm fine with such low base attack here, because my attack is only at 1600, which honestly, for a main DPS carry, you want to have somewhere around 1900 to 2000 attack. And the reason why I'm fine with that is because the massive 50% damage increase you get with the full passive, the Serpent Spine, allows you to do a lot more damage than you think. Now, for artifacts, you're probably going to be questioning why I'm running a 4-piece Thundering Fury, so I will go ahead and talk about that here for a second. So for my main DPS Beidou, I do have a C6 Bennett, and with the C6 Bennett, what I'm able to do is constantly proc Overload, and with the Overload, I'm going to be decreasing the cooldown of my E skill by 1 second every 0.8 seconds. So whenever I do my Bennett ult, I like to do a charge attack with my Beidou Q, and I'll be dishing out a lot of overload damage. On top of that, it is increased by a whopping 40%, which will give you a nice damage buff to that little extra little ticks that you get from the overload. For the most part, the only reason why I'm really running this 4-piece set is because of the fact that I have really good rolls on every single one of my stats. I mean, this one has a lot of attack percent. This one is pretty good at critical damage, mask. I have a very nice feather here. I also have a very nice plume here. So mostly the only reason why I'm running the 4-piece Thundering Fury set is for the simple fact that I have very good substats on them. Usually just go whichever substats you have better. That will usually give you the most damage. For other sets, I do recommend the 2-piece Thundering Fury as well as 2-piece Shiminawas or 2-piece Gladiators, the attack percent one. You also can go for the 2-piece Noblesse Oblige as well as the 2-piece Thundering Fury. I found to also work very well. And if you want to maximize her ultimate damage, you could go a 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate, which is the brand new set that came out alongside the Raiden Shogun release. This set also does work very, very well on her, and it'll give her the most damage on her ultimate. It pretty much covers artifacts. I'm going to go ahead and move down to Constellations here. So for Constellations, there's obviously 2 important Constellations, in my opinion, for Beidou. Now, the first one, of course, is going to be her C2, which basically doubles or triples her ultimate damage, because what this is going to do is allow you to jump between 2 additional targets, and that's basically just going to flow the lightning back and forth between all the enemies and just do a ton of damage. So her C2 is really important for her DPS potential on her ultimate. The other important constellation is actually going to be her C6, and what this is going to do is decrease electro resistance of all surrounding opponents by 15%. Basically, this is going to allow your ultimate to hit harder. It's going to give a little bit of defensive shred so that she can work well with other electro characters like Sara or Kaching if you want to put her with Kaching. Her other constellations, of course, are her C1 and her C4. Her C4 is only really for main DPS Beidou, and this is basically after you get attacked, your normal's attack will gain a 20% electro damage bonus whenever you do an attack with it. Her C1 will give her a shield which absorbs 16% of Beidou's max HP for 15 seconds, and it absorbs electro damage 250% more effectively. Now, I have found this shield to be kind of meh, because unfortunately, she has a super high energy cost at 80, and considering you need to pop her ultimate in order for you to get a shield refresh, or even get a shield at all, it's going to take quite some time compared to characters like Diona or Zhongli that get it on their elemental skill. Alright, so that pretty much covers it for constellations. Let's go ahead and move on to talents. Now here is my Beidou. Of course, my Beidou is going to be double crowned. This is what she would look like as a triple crown character. Of course, I have Child on the team, which is why she's actually getting an extra +1 to her talents. So this is what she would look like if she was triple crowned. My E and my Q are definitely triple crowned. My normal attacks are at level 9, but I just decided to show off what a level 10 triple crown Beidou would look like in terms of percentages. So here are the percentages for Beidou's level 10 talent. Of course, I only just had this pulled up just so you guys can see the numbers if you want to go ahead and scroll through them. So here are the multipliers for the Tide Caller. Now, the Tide Caller at level 13 has a very whoppingly high 258% base damage, and this is where she really gets broken. If you get the perfect counter off, what you're going to be doing is taking this 340% damage bonus on hit taken and times that by 2. And basically what you're going to be getting is somewhere around 900% damage on an E skill, which is pretty ridiculous. That's some people's ultimates. For example, if we compare that to a character like Child, his ultimate is only doing a 789% at a level 9 talent. If we looked at level 10, it's going to be an 835% multiplier. Now, this is a very high multiplier, but this, keep in mind, is only an ultimate skill compared to Beidou's E, which literally has a 7-second cooldown, which you could launch off very, very consistently. So this is probably one of the highest multipliers for an E skill in the entire game. I think it has one of the same multipliers as it does for Eula in terms of just overall damage from how hard the E skill will hit. These two basically share the crown in terms of elemental skill damage. And of course, we have probably the best ability in the entire game, one of the best ultimates in the entire game, is going to be the Stormbreaker ability. Now, this ultimate is absolutely ridiculous. On top of the crazy damage that we all know it does, with the 258% base damage, and then on top of that is 200%, and it flickers through everyone and does a lot of damage, and it spreads out. On top of that, you also get a whopping 37% damage reduction. Now, that is really good. So if you go from taking about 10,000 damage, you're going to be taking only about 7,000 damage. So it will cut off a very big chunk of damage that you will be taking when you do have this ultimate active. So it is a very good ultimate in terms of offensive and defensive power. It is very well balanced. Now, for her passive skills, of course, we do have the Retribution ability, which basically just allows you to basically perfect counter. So whenever you get the precise moment with Tidecaller, you counterattack, you will be getting the maximum damage bonus without having to rely on getting hit twice. So this is probably one of her best passive skills. It basically allows you to get a full counter without having to get hit twice. So then you only have to time it perfectly, which makes it very fun to play. She also has this Lightning Storm ability, which is only for really DPS. Whenever you unleash a Tidecaller with its maximum damage bonus, basically you get increased damage by normal and charged attacks by 15%. You get a 15% attack speed buff as well, and you greatly reduce the delay before unleashing charge attacks. So this is very well when you pair this with a main DPS Beidou. So that pretty much covers everything that's going on with my Beidou, my entire build, and all of that stuff. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I'm going to put a little bit more clips of me doing some big PP damage with Beidou. Enjoy.